All right. Welcome. My name is Henry Ames, and as I've said before, the last 2 days, I'm responsible for our logistics orchestration here at TraceLink, and I'm really happy that you all are here. Thank you for staying towards the end. Really appreciate your participation today. So over the last few days, we've really talked to some key industry experts looking at the storage, handling, and distribution of medicinal products. We've looked at some complexities around cell and gene therapy. We've looked at AI and a number of other topics that are of great importance to all of us. You've also heard from Shabir in yesterday's opening session. And I don't know if you noticed it, even though I don't know Shabir, haven't known him for all that long. I could tell that he was incredibly excited because yesterday's announcement was the culmination of roughly 20 years of hard work, of his hard work, but the hard work across the entire TraceLink organization. So today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to delve a little bit deeper into Mint. We're going to move away from the subject matter expertise and the unique characteristics of the pharmaceutical supply chain, and we're going to talk about how Mint can help what we call the logistics orchestration. So what do I mean when I say logistics orchestration? When I say logistics orchestration, it's really almost anything to do with the flow of goods into or out of essentially a 3PL. So when you think about that, it could be product staged by a 3PL that gets moved into a manufacturing process in a just-in-time environment. Could be coming into a contract manufacturer, actually the branded drug manufacturer. It could be product movement of finished goods from a drug manufacturer into a 3PL where that product is warehoused, stored, and then pick, pack, shipped downstream to a pharmacy, a hospital, a clinic, or maybe even to an IDN, an actual pharmacy network. So we're really talking about the movement of goods and the flow of information that accompanies those goods as it moves through the supply chain from that logistics orchestration. And we're going to delve into that a little bit deeper. My colleague, Terence Purrier, is our solutions consultant here, and he knows the Mint solution inside and out. We have a number of solution engineers, and they're all very good, but I happen to really enjoy working with Terence. He was actually one of the key individuals that helped me when I first came on board. So I'm going to set it up, and then I'm going to turn it over to Terence, and we'll obviously be open for questions. We don't need to wait till the end, so if you have questions along the way, we've got a smaller group for this session, so feel free to raise your hand, feel free to interact if you have questions along the way. Okay, as I said, logistics orchestration defined, I've already done that a little bit, but again, it's the flow of information around the movement of goods, either into or out of a logistics service provider. We're going to share why digitalize, what are the opportunities for improvement when we're talking about digitalizing the flow of communication between the logistics service provider and their supply chain partners. We're going to share a little bit about what we've heard from customers, and we've learned quite a bit over the last number of years. And then, of course, the big reveal is going to be Terence. So it's important to take just maybe one step back. When we think about the drug manufacturing process, obviously the drug manufacturer is at the center of this image, but that doesn't mean that we always think about just the drug manufacturer. And we'll come back to this because looking at any orchestration from both perspectives is really important. As we're talking about Mint, we're talking about individuals joining a multi-enterprise supply chain collaboration platform. You've got to really think about and understand the value proposition from both sides of the orchestration. It can't just work for only one side of the orchestration. There has to be value for both entities that are willing to communicate and connect digitally on that network. But for today, we're going to focus on this logistics orchestration at the bottom. But before I do that, I want to just point out that when we think about Mint and the opportunities to drive value with Mint, we don't just think about the logistics orchestration. We think about upstream in our supply chain. So that could be raw materials, excipients, APIs coming into the manufacturing process. It could be critical components of a quality management system, meaning specialty packaging coming into that process. It could be critical components coming into the manufacturing process that are used in the shipping and the distribution, or even things like syringes or prefabricated components that are required for the further distribution of that material. We also look downstream. So downstream, looking at the flow of information, the flow of goods from the manufacturer to the logistics service provider, to the pharmacy, to the hospital, to the clinic, maybe to a contract packager. So really upstream and downstream, and we also cover both clinical and commercial operations. So that's another important element.
And if I can add to that, when you think about the word orchestration we use, while we position Mint obviously as a software solution for the industry, orchestration includes your collaboration with your partners as well. So to Henry's point, if you aren't conscious of where your role in the supply chain falls relative to those before you and after you, you impact how fast or slow or optimal or inefficient the supply chain moves. So when we implement this, we think about what happens before this step, what happens after. Have you thought about time constraints, time fences? And real-time data is key, but also do the processes align with the implementation that you're doing today? So something to think about as you bring it all together for true orchestration.
Thank you, Terrence. So I think we can all agree that the pharmaceutical supply chain is sufficiently complex, and we've heard from a number of speakers over the last 2 days on this very topic. Monica Derek-Poix talked about regulatory compliance in origin and destination countries, and that needs to be taken into consideration. That can vary quite greatly. She talked about distribution models that varied within, even here in Europe, from even countries that share borders. Those systems can be very, very different. We've talked about outsourcing activities and this trend towards outsourcing services to other providers that then create essentially a lack of visibility, create a need for that digital connectivity to ensure the flow of information around the movement of goods so that you can help provide that supply chain visibility. So some of the common questions we hear from customers are, has my supplier accepted the PO in full? Is my order ready to ship? Is my batch quality released? What's the real-time forecasted demand? Where is my shipment? All of these questions are very common questions that we hear from customers that are involved in that logistics orchestration. So how do we see customers solving those problems today? Well, today they're often throwing more people at it, which obviously is not efficient. It's not cost effective at all. Sometimes we see logistics providers developing portals. And many of these 3PLs have invested heavily in these portals, and they're actually quite good. There's a lot of really good, rich data in these portals, and in many cases, there's opportunities to drive reporting and analytics. The problem is, if you're a drug manufacturer and you're working across multiple logistics service providers, do I go to this LSP's portal to pull down this information for this geographic market, and then this another portal to pull on this information for this particular product category or this geography? So it's not really efficient for the ultimate customer, and that's one of the elements where we see Mint providing great value for 3PL to provide a more harmonized solution in terms of visibility for the customer. And of course, as we pointed out, and Shabir made very clear, is the point-to-point integrations are just hugely expensive, time-consuming, and just simply not efficient at all. Now, I know this is coming up. I think Paul might have this in the next deck, so I won't belabor the point. But in essence, TraceLink, this sort of green sickle shape in the middle, that's what we talked about yesterday. That was essentially the Rosetta Stone, the ability to come as you are, enabling a trading partner to come to the transaction with whatever type of information format they want, allowing TraceLink to serve as the translation technology that converts that data into whatever format your trading partner would like to receive it in, and facilitate that collaboration. And that collaboration could be system to system, could be system to person, or person to person. So again, talking about democratizing the supply chain, enabling any level of technical prowess to participate on the network.
And to emphasize one point on here too is that what Henry just mentioned, a lot of companies, what they do is they'll invest into a data lake technology, right? And hire this room of IT professionals. And all those service providers and those customers say, hey, well, connect here, connect here. Now we're synthesizing data in a data lake to now invest in a BI tool to surface the data. So you're adding a new suite of employees, a vertical, if you will, to your pharma company. Is that what you want to do? Is that the direction you want to go? And I think that's a question we should ask internally from a strategy perspective is, do we want to become an IT company, or do we want to focus on the pharma, strategy that we are a business that we created initially, right? What do we want to do with that? And so I would argue that people would agree we don't want to become an IT full-scale shop. Maybe support our internal processes, but that connectivity requires you now, if you want all that data, you have to go get it yourself. And it's challenging, time-consuming, as we illustrated in the last slide.
And can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Specifically? When you're sitting there and looking at this system in terms of cost of data storage, being just slowly being introduced to this platform, could you make the argument that there's less cost of housing data with these types of integrations rather than going to like a data lake?
Oh, for sure. You have to have an administrator, or you pay for someone's cloud service, one or the other, right? And that's where you do your assessment, you do your RFP, RFX, and your RF processes, but it's either have in-house resources to manage it and you buy your own data space, or you use a third-party cloud software. And I guarantee you if it's just storing data, I think Bert can speak to more than I can, but that's gonna be costly, because that's the business they're in, is storing data. So their model to make money is to store the data, right? I think we're kind of in between. We're not trying to do one or the other, but we're supporting the pharma industry with the data that you already transact with us. And again, if you want to become an IT shop, invest heavily into that, right? But weigh that investment now against the alternative.
And while TraceLink has developed arguably the most comprehensive multi-enterprise supply chain collaboration platform on the planet today, with over 300,000 participants on the network trading transactional data today specific to DSCSA and EUFMD and all of the other track and trace and serialization e-pedigree related data, we've expanded those transaction types as was described, and Terrence is going to get into that later, specifically the transaction types for the 3PL orchestration. So what are the benefits to the orchestration? We've talked about some of them before, so I won't belabor the point on this particular slide, but it's real-time inventory management. It's enabling a 3PL to provide order-to-cash services. This is important when the 3PL is actually looking to expand services, provide a higher level of granularity of customer service to the drug manufacturer, and be able to share that information in a timely manner. And of course, receiving optimization for customers. Has my shipment been shipped? When can I expect to receive that shipment? And how do I have visibility around the movement of goods? So the next two slides are quite simple, but in essence, this is your fulfillment orchestration. I always like to think of it from the customer's perspective. In this particular slide, we have the customer on the right-hand side. Of course, they're submitting a purchase order to the organization. That information goes to the 3PL. You've got a warehouse stock transfer shipping advice, then the receiving advice, the warehouse shipping order, shipping advice, and so forth. So this is the flow of information around a traditional fulfillment process. In this particular example, this is where the 3PL is actually managing the order to cash. In this case, you've got the 3PL in the middle with the customer on the left-hand side, and the same type of transactions are occurring here between the 3PL and the customer, but on the right-hand side, you've got the 3PL sending the purchase order info, the advanced ship notice info, invoice info. So that information is flowing back to the manufacturer to give them visibility on the performance and the activities being performed by their third party, by their outsourced third party, enabling the drug manufacturer to know exactly what's happening with regards to the flow of information. And much of this information either isn't flowing today or is flowing in a very manual process. So with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Terrence.
So in the interest of time, I want to go through this. This is a newly released development. I give my disclaimer. I see some people I think I want to say. Our engineers are actively working to deploy enhancements to the solution. So I'm going to jump in here, and I may have to log in and log out because we do have high security in this platform. So after a certain amount of time, it will kick you out of the system so that no one drifts by your laptop and starts pecking on it, right? So this is the login to the Opus platform screen, and what I'm going to do, we have Zoom popping up now, great. What I'm going to do is walk through a few of the themes that you've heard across the past few days around the network concept, how we can easily add members to a network, create the network, link you to those partners, and then I walk through, to Henry's point, a few of the logistics-related transaction screens, and I'll show a report or dashboard or two. Again, keep your mind open. This is the possibilities of, as you go through, having all your data in one platform. So in the administration screen, I like to say I don't expect users to live in this area. If you have a business systems analyst, someone who loves technology, they can manage this. You do not need a C# or Java programming background to do anything in a solution. But in the admin screen, I'm able to view all the applications I have loaded. So we're going to look at primarily Mint. And I'm going to run apply here, and it's going to show me a replication of what was below. Given time, it goes quickly. Let's refresh this. Let's see if it wants me to log back in. Okay. So we can look and see that if I focus on my Multienterprise Information Network Tower, I have these built in my network. I have an external manufacturing network, a logistics, we have our demo, and we have distributors. So keep in mind of your business scale and who you work with. All those personas can have their own individual network. It can be done by product vertical, regional location. It's your playpen to develop what you'd like. And it's very easy to now create a new network. You've acquired a new piece of business, or you're starting up a new piece of business. Choose the application, which is Mint. You name the network what you choose to, and you hit add. You've created a new network just that quickly in your Mint instance. All right, so I'm not going to go through the full steps in the interest of time, but let's say we created one as a fifth one here. You can now actively work inside that network to add links. Links are essentially you connecting your network to the partners you want to exchange data with. So as Henry mentioned, we built a massive network of partners, trade partners, licensees of the actual solution. So if I go in, I'm going to pick on my logistics space here. I'm going to hit apply. It's going to show me all the entities that I work with today, right? I've gone out, my sales team's done a great job. They found some new business for us, and we want to add a new partner. Add links gives us a quick, very simple way to add a new partner to my logistics network. I can do a simple type ahead if I'd like, but these are ideally companies on the network that we would deploy in the production instance. We're going to choose, let's say, Nexus Med 86. I hit next. Again, I won't go through the whole orchestration, but in here, I can now choose and add the roles and responsibilities for the users for that partner network I'm adding on here. So if they've never been on the solution, they'll go through this process, but if they're already active on the solution, it's a shorter process, right? So imagine that. The admin person can actually manage users as well. I won't go through the full orchestration, but this is where that admin person can say, for the logistics orchestration or any other one on the network, I have a ton of users. This is your admin space. This is as far as you really need to go, because our network success team supports all the mapping and changes and additions too for all the transactions that you choose to exchange between partners. Now you can engage with them, of course, to do custom mapping. If you do additions and changes to your purchase order, your warehouse stock transfer transactions. But this is I would argue to say this is as much you may need to do inside the platform, unless you want to be a power user, right? Which is everyone I think likes to be. But if I go into logistics quickly, the business transaction screen, this is the screen again where the business analyst type role could play. This is where you see all your transactions going to and fro between all your partners. This is purely the space where I see two clean use cases. Systems wise, are the transactions flowing as expected? Did I make a change in my SAP instance that threw an error inside Mint? Did it go to and fro? The other side is for the partner, they can come to this screen if they like and download the transaction to upload to some black box solution they may have. So remember we mentioned system to person. It's that concept of you may have a solution in place that's not integratable. You may not want to invest in integration because you're doing an upgrade in some time in the near future. You can still be half of the equation to support the digital exchange of data by using the platform this way. So this gives you the traditional notes around the data packet, if you will, of the transaction as it came to and fro. So again, if you have an in-house IT team, they can have one person monitoring this to make sure their external gateway from SAP, Oracle, what have you, is going cleanly into Mint. They can interact with our team. So it doesn't take an army. It can take one or two people to just flow through the system. Sure.
Do you have alerting and notifications out of this yet, or something that can flag failures of data transfer?
Yes, alerts and notifications will come through the platform. And we also have business rules that can apply for certain use cases that you may want to export. Go to those users applicable. Oh yeah, and the notification bell's up here. So We've got some new stuff in there today, 4 hours ago. So it'll give that information in as well, and those notifications can flow to the email of the users who are working in that space. So then going into logistics itself, what you'll see here, these are the transactions we've loaded just for the demo environment. Balances, updates, ship orders, ship advices, the transfers and receiving advices against those. So as we mentioned in some of the sessions, all of these UIs will have, all these transactions will have a UI associated with them. So I'm gonna go into inventory balances and just take a peek at what transactions are here. So we've got just a sample set of inventory balances. We can see who reported it in, the reporting company's actual title name, and I'm gonna go into just one to click through it. Just give you a peek into it. So imagine again, you have your warehouse management system in place, or your partner does. You have your ERP system in place, or your partner does. Unless you have a magical tool, you're not looking at the same data in the same way. That's the canonical model Henry mentioned. We take that data and pass it through in whatever format, from SAP to Oracle, we translate it. Once we surface it though, it's going in the state that you request. And I think we do a bit of customization to allow title name changes inside the UI, but essentially it's your data being viewed between you and that partner. So imagine in a world where you have different verbiage, different SLAs, each partner can have an experience to an extent as you curate the networks and build those out. And we can help talk you through that orchestration. But as we go down, we can see the actual states of the inventory balance itself. This was in send mode, has been sent. We can go down and view the transaction information, inventory balance information, reporting, client, but then we also get to the line items. We get to the actual data. Right? There's a consistency. You want to have a conversation. You know, we can hop on a Zoom or WebEx or talk about it, but it normalizes the data in a screen where you can share and discuss it. All right. And so, and again, in perfect world, system to system, this is already flown over to the partner system, but we can talk about it here and the data's housed here. Shabir and others have talked a lot about our reporting analytics capability and our future of AI and ML. This is the foundation of it. You saw the processing of the transactions. We're surfacing the data in UIs. And I'll click on a couple more. I think we have some shipping orders in here. We'll see. And there's one or two we got loaded this morning. Yeah. So I'll pop into a shipping order, right? So I've instructed my 3PL to ship some product down to an end customer, right? And I want to view that details of that transaction, right? We parse that information out. You've got Incoterms, payment methods are pulled over in here. One of my favorite ones was, did we get the shipping location right, which we get wrong a lot. Somehow we fat finger key it in, right? Client provider, who's actually doing the transportation move for me on behalf of, ship to location, bill to location information, and then we've got the line item that's populated here. We can populate expiry dates, quantity, order, unit of measure, so that all the information will flow in here depending on what's in the transaction. What's also interesting is we have some rules around some of the data, but in some spaces, every partner may not have access to all the data you want, but we'll populate as much as we can as we get the normal, the default data loaded. So it's still, again, you're getting more data than you were before at the request of an email, and it's closer to real time than you could imagine prior to.
Terry, sorry to interrupt, but I spoke to someone during FutureLink over the last few days, and they told me that it's hugely painful for them because they don't have visibility on inbound product that they've ordered, inbound material that they've ordered. They call it a vendor present when it arrives on the shipping dock. They honestly don't know what's inside the box. Yeah. Until they open it.
Yeah. And to Henry's point, this orchestration kind of flows in that direction. Your warehouse teams, your inbound, outbound teams know how to manage the work physically. Now they have a dashboard that brings in all the transactions, all the shipments, inbound and outbound, will be digitized in a platform from all the providers. I'm gonna pop into reports and dashboards because this is a really cool one. Oh, I forgot one important piece. In the case where we do not have a system and we're going to use a person interaction, manual interaction, this new button and edit button, in the interest of time, I won't create one. I can create shipping order details. Again, I don't think and Paul's in the back here, I don't think we're looking to replace execution of an ERP or WMS or TMS. However, in cases today where we see there's an ability to give you 10% of what a solution can do to get the partner the digital data, it's inside the solution today. So they can create shipping orders, create ASNs, create POs and POACs inside the solution to, again, meet the partner need while they may source an actual execution system. So all the transaction experiences have a new and an edit of the actual current transaction. Reports and dashboards. So you can curate reports and dashboards. We have a few team members. Oh, question.
Yeah. I know it may not be a popular question, but can you download information from these tables?
Yes. Yeah, so that's where the reports piece comes in. You build your own reports, and you can download data from those reports and throw it into your Power BI or use an external process to analyze data. The data is yours, as I like to say. It's your data. But the reports and dashboards, which is a really cool feature, I'll go into the dashboard quickly and I'll pull up the report and how it looks. When I click this, and let's just say I have SLAs and metrics and things that matter to me as the warehouse shipping manager, right, versus the procurement manager, versus the buyer or seller in an organization. I can curate dashboards. We mocked this one up. Thank you, Alex. We mocked this one up, but just inventory balance report. This is your world, your dashboard. You can create this how you'd like to. This just shows products, levels, scrap product, quality to product to go to scrap, and some initial, can't read that one fully on my screen, but it's unrestricted data related to inventory. So as you know, inventory balance reports and inventory updates come with various attributes to give you the state of the inventory. All that can be created because it's an attribute inside the actual data table. So we can take that and create a report and say, I want to see everything that has gone to scrap. I want to see everything that is work in process, materials consumed and produced, things of that nature. You can imagine more because the data is going to be in the table. And we work through the table and build out a dashboard that tells us a story.
So you could build aging reports for inventory that's sitting too long or things that are out over specific time periods.
Yep. And clicking the filter, well, we'll go to report and do it. Let me go here and I'll show you a peek into something as well. Go to reports quickly. I know we're a minute or so over here, but let me pull one up here quickly.
Don't want to take time from my boss.
I know. I want to.
Don't worry, I won't need that much time.
I'll just.
The cool stuff with the product.
So this is inside the report itself. That gave us a dashboard on the prior screen. Over here on the right column, you have columns you can modify, filters, and then you can compute columns, right? So yes, when you think about if you have some metrics to track today, the calculated fields in Excel or another tool, you can replicate it here inside the solution. Yeah. And so I think in the interest of time, I'll pause there. But again, what's really also cool about this is I'm not logging in multiple times. So I just click the link to go over to, or tab to go over to my external manufacturing operation. Maybe I double down, I do a lot of work at my company. I'm the warehouse person, but I also handle external manufacturing at CMOs. I can come in here and now I see a new suite of transactions that are applicable to manufacturing that have been deployed. And we go into ASNs even, just a quick view.
We call those process networks, correct? So each one of those?
Well, so the process networks overall can operate as, oh, now I see all three. Yes, distributors, external manufacturing, logistics, or process networks you create individually based on the business operation. But if a user has access to your instance, they can log in and see all three. The admin can say, well, I only want Burke to see external manufacturing. He needs to focus there, but someone else may have to manage distributors and logistics. So you can do that. But this shows a bit more of the related information related to ASNs even, right? We've got tons of ASN data that now I can take this information and I can load this and I can view reference transactions. This is really cool because I can now relate the ASN to a delivery order and a purchase order. When the invoice comes in, you'll see the related transaction in there as well. So you're now not using a spreadsheet to piece together to tell a story. You can use this in a plethora of ways to apply across the business.
Any questions on the demo? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. This is an offline question. I'm happy with this. So one of the things that's interesting is finding partners that are already on the platform. Mm-hmm. How do you recommend somebody who's looking to implement Mint go about talking to their external partners if they're not on the platform? So is there a script, or is there something that you can help facilitate? So, perfect example, where we would look to utilize this first is with an external CRO that we're working in the clinical space. Yeah. Not sure if they're in your network already. The facilitation of that conversation, is that something that TraceLink typically would partake in? Do you have a script? Do you have something that helps walk a partner who hasn't seen this before through this visualization or through this process?
The answer is yes to all of that. Yeah, we have scripts that will help facilitate those conversations. We obviously would like to sit with you first to make sure we fully understand the specific use case, because some of the scripts we have already developed might need some fine tuning or tweaking. But as I mentioned in the earlier slides, it's really important to understand the value associated with Mint from both sides of the transactions. To exactly your point, because we've seen some resistance from companies that don't really understand. They say, well, are you reducing my switching costs? I've substantially invested in integration with a customer, and if I join the Mint program, does that mean that customer could easily move further away from me? Well, no, not if you're providing high-level quality service. In fact, you can increase your service levels and provide them with a higher quality of service. But it's a very good question, and the answer to it is yes. We have those scripts today. We'll fine-tune and refine those and work with you to support. And Paul, yes, he wants to elaborate on it.
And I'll cover this in the next session, but we have every Mint subscription, and which you get all the capability of Opus with the Mint subscription, comes with a network program manager as well, right? So there's a whole network success team. They work with the customer and their trading partners for the full onboarding experience. So like, it's just part of the subscription. And so when Henry's talking about the scripts, it's actually the network program management team that's running those on the customer's behalf. We recognize that they're not, typically doing that each and every day like we are, so we actually add it to the program.
So we've already covered most of this, but it is important to think about it from the 3PL's perspective. So if you're a manufacturer, if you represent a manufacturer, and you're thinking of working with Mint, utilizing Mint to help better collaborate with your logistics service provider, it's thinking about the logistics service provider and how they're going to benefit from Mint. It's about providing a higher quality of service to their customer, the drug manufacturer, and to the ultimate customer, their customer's customer, the patient, the pharmacy, the hospital, the clinic. So it's inventory visibility, you're reducing costs, you're increasing internal efficiencies. We know from speaking with logistics service providers, sometimes they're doing manual processes to develop custom reports that then get emailed or maybe loaded into their custom portal that then needs to be pulled down. So there's a lot of manual work that goes on behind the scenes to provide support. The ability to improve the responsiveness, be able to provide visibility on-time in-full deliveries, and be able to drive key performance indicators that can be measured and measured over a period of time to help ensure that there's process improvement and cost savings throughout that process.